Did you know that nearly 3 million people rely on accessible parking just to maintain their independence? It's a huge number. And if you or a loved one are among them, you know exactly how vital that little piece of plastic on your dashboard really is. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely demystify the somewhat complex process of renewing your disabled parking placard in New York. Consider this your step-by-step guide for beginners, designed to make sure you never have to face a frustrating interruption in your mobility.
So how do you maintain your independence when your mobility is severely impaired? Relying on accessible parking is absolutely essential for getting to groceries, making it to medical appointments, and just handling daily life. But man, the anxiety of an expiring placard is very real. New York's bureaucracy can be famously intimidating, and missing a deadline can mean a sudden, complete loss of access. So we're going to break down exactly how to keep your access uninterrupted and take all the stress right out of the renewal equation.
All right, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we'll untangle NYC versus NYS permits. Second, we'll cover eligibility and forms. Third, we'll walk through the step-by-step renewal process. Fourth, we'll look at penalties and risks. And finally, we'll wrap up with tips for uninterrupted mobility.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, NYC versus NYS permits.
First up, we've got to clear up the biggest point of confusion for New York residents because there are two very different types of permits here. On one hand, you have the New York State permit. This is that familiar blue or red plastic hang tag that goes on your rearview mirror, and it's used for off-street parking. Think shopping mall parking lots, things like that. This one is valid statewide. On the other hand, you have the New York City PPPD. This is a rectangular dashboard placard, not a hang tag. It lets you park on actual city streets in New York City, including at meters for free, and even in some no parking zones. Because it's so powerful, it's highly regulated exclusively for the 5 boroughs and requires its own specific application.
Moving right along to Section 2, eligibility and forms.
To get your state permit, you have to meet some pretty strict criteria. You need a severe, permanent, or temporary disability that significantly limits your mobility. We're talking about qualifying conditions like the use of portable oxygen, legal blindness, the inability to walk 200 feet without stopping, or having a Class 3 or IV cardiac condition. The crucial takeaway here is that your medical provider absolutely must certify that you have one of these specific, severe conditions. Oh, and if you're applying for the New York City on-street permit, there's an extra hurdle. You must also prove that you require a private vehicle for transportation.
Now, to actually prove you meet those conditions, you're going to need the infamous New York State DMV Form MV664.1. I know it sounds intimidating and it looks like a dense wall of text, but I promise it's actually super straightforward once you break it down. Part 1 at the top is just your personal information, your name, address, and your signature. That's it. Part 2 is entirely for your medical provider. They just check the box for your specific condition, drop in their professional license number, and sign it.
But there's a really critical distinction here depending on the color of your tag. Permanent blue tags have somewhat flexible renewal requirements, which we'll get into in just a second. Temporary red tags, however, are only valid for a maximum of 6 months. And if you need to renew a temporary red tag, you can't just ask for an extension. No way. You have to undergo a brand new evaluation, and it strictly must be completed by a medical doctor, an MD, or a doctor of osteopathy, a DO.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty with Section 3, the step-by-step renewal process.
So, on the state level, the process sounds almost too simple on paper. Step 1, fill out your part of the form. Step 2, get your doctor to fill out their part if your specific town requires it. Step 3, submit it to your local issuing agent, which is usually your town or city clerk. But here's the catch. The state delegates the power to manage these permits down to the local municipalities. That means the actual rules on the ground are wildly chaotic and depend entirely on your zip code. And this is exactly why you've got to check your local rules. Look at this massive variance. If you live in Mount Pleasant, your permanent tag is only good for 2 years, and you actually have to surrender your old tag in person just to get a new one. Over in Syracuse, they give you 5 years, and they'll even let a family member submit the paperwork for you. But if you're in the town of Wappinger, they make you do a full medical reapplication with your doctor every single time you renew. They treat it like a brand new application. It's a total patchwork system.
Speaking of local rules, you really have to watch out for municipal gotchas. Take the town of Babylon, for example. They literally require you to grab a pair of scissors, cut your expiring placard in half, and mail the pieces along with your application if you aren't renewing in person. Seriously, if you didn't know that hyper-specific local rule, your application would be delayed and you could be left totally without parking access.
Now let's pivot over to the New York City dashboard placard because the city handles things completely differently. You don't even initiate the renewal. They do. The NYC DOT automatically mails you a renewal packet 10 weeks before your expiration date. You just mail back the form, photocopies of your IDs, and current registrations for up to 3 vehicles. Now, if your file gets flagged for recertification, the NYC Health Department's Medical Certification Unit will review your doctor's records. And hey, if your application is ever denied, don't panic. The DOT will send you a reason of non-certification letter that clearly outlines the appeals process so you can challenge their decision.
All right, let's talk about what happens if things go wrong in Section 4, penalties and risks.
Making a false statement on your medical application or providing any misinformation is a literal misdemeanor in New York State. And if you're caught misusing a permit, like, say, using a permit that belonged to a deceased family member, you are looking at steep fines ranging from $250 to $1,000. The DOT actively monitors for deceased permit holders, and any continued use of that tag by family members will result in immediate, heavy penalties.
You also definitely need to know about a recent update regarding expired permits. During the height of the pandemic, the city granted extensions for permits expiring between 2020 and 2022. Well, those extensions are now completely over. All of those city PPPID extensions are officially expired. If you display one of those old tags on your dashboard today, your vehicle will be swiftly ticketed and very likely towed. To keep you out of trouble and make sure your access remains seamless, let's jump to Section 5, Tips for Uninterrupted Mobility.
First things first, always update your address immediately. The USPS will not forward official DOT renewal packets, so if you move and don't tell the DOT, you simply won't get your renewal form. Second, to be safe, always submit your paperwork at least 4 weeks early to account for mail and bureaucratic delays. Third, if you're waiting on a city permit, you can easily check your status by calling 718-433-3100. And finally, check your local town clerk's website. Some towns, like Brookhaven, actually have dedicated online portals for permit renewals now, which can save you a frustrating trip in person.
Bureaucracy changes constantly, doesn't it? Every town seems to have its own unique flavor of red tape, so always remember to double-check with your local issuing agent or the NYC DOT to ensure you have the absolute most up-to-date info. Please note the information in this explainer is accurate as of August 2026, and policies are subject to change. We've seen how wildly chaotic these rules can be, which leaves us with one final provocative question. Is a system this fragmented prioritizing bureaucracy over actual accessibility, and what can we do to fix it? Let us know your thoughts and definitely share your local renewal experiences in the comments below.